and the primal origin, raised high beyond all things. Pour forth a ray of your brightness into the darkened places of our minds. Disperse from our souls the two-found darkness which we were each born with, sin and ignorance. You make eloquent the tongues of infants. You refine our speech. You pour forth upon our lips the goodness of your blessing. Grant to each of us keenness of mind, capacity to remember, skill in learning, cleverness to interpret, and clarity in speech. May you guide the beginning of our work, direct its progress, and bring it to completion. You who are true God and true man, who live and reign, world without end. Amen. Amen. Load up. Good morning.
Good morning. So after Thanksgiving, the nice weather we had in my church, there was good Thanksgiving celebration on the day itself. We had a kind of celebration at 4:30 Mass. Then afterwards, we had a gathering of food, turkey, then movie, the facility. Just there were two movies, one in a native language, another one in English for the kids mainly. And the movie from our native language, they enjoyed it, of course, because that brings nostalgia, to the. And then I arranged a kind of photography, family photography. Yeah, this is a family gathering, so I set up a studio with a real good light and things like that, and then. But I did, I asked somebody to arrange it, I arranged it. So the families with their kids and, all can come and sit and take a family photo.
And you were there with every family?
No. I don't belong to the small families. I belong to the big family.
I'm saying you should have been.
Yeah. We took also some photos like, the choir group. So of course I was there, and then something like that. So we started at 4:30 and ended almost at 10 o'clock.
Wow, it was a long celebration.
Yeah, big celebration it was. Nice. Yeah, people enjoyed it. Then I told them, we really celebrated very well the Thanksgiving. Now Christmas is coming, we have to plan something more.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. This year, Hanukkah and Thanksgiving were on the same day.
Yeah.
It won't happen again for thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought about it, and I was amazed how much those two holidays have in common. Hanukkah, they had one jar of oil for one lamp for one day, but it miraculously that lasted 8 days. Thanksgiving, we prepare one bird for one meal for one day, and somehow it feeds us for 8 days.
In our place, that last Sunday, that was very good. I was here for the Mass, and then I was in the gathering. I ate good turkey. Yeah, I saw 1,000 people, 600 people. Yeah, only thing is I did not win the prize. That is the only problem I had. The ticket, no?
Oh, it was a wrong ticket?
You won your prize.
I did not win them. That's the only.
A lot of us didn't.
They kept reading the wrong numbers.
We kept a lot of the gifts for later because nobody would win them.
Oh.
I don't know if people were paying attention or what, but we kept a lot of prizes for later on.
Okay, that's.
Father Louis had to take some of those home.
We made sure we got them.
That's okay. We started last time how we already come to the differences, the churches and differences in what is really the Catholic Church, And See, I have already explained at least 4 elements to be a right. Right means always remember the spelling R-I-T-E. Right. Right. That means there are 23 rights in the Catholic Church.
That's almost one for every letter of the American alphabet.
Yeah. So, and then, but we have already seen now the 6 liturgical families. Now, 6 liturgical families. All these are. So, let us say, just to bring to our mind, these are things once again, because 1 week last. So, there are 4 elements, to constitute a right. One is theology or, faith, faith and spirituality and then morality, something like that. Okay? This is the first element. The first means, just to say one element. Okay? The second one is liturgy. Liturgy means what faith we have, we celebrate it. It's an outward celebration of our faith.
An expression.
Expression of our faith. And thirdly, it is discipline. Discipline. Discipline means laws, how to live. There are laws that prohibits something not to be done, and there are laws that asks us to, to do something. Now, so nots and what's called, is. Now, we have to do these things, and we should not do these things. For example, of course, during Lent time, the law asks us to fast, or the fasting days. So that's a demand from the law. Or again, something, we should not do this and we should not do. So the laws could be either not to do or asking us to do something. Okay? Discipline. And the fourth one is hierarchy. Hierarchy. Okay? Hierarchy. So these are, even though these are very, when we see these 4 elements, except of course, maybe hierarchy, these 3 are, it's a world of studies. So much to study. There are so much to study. For example, the faith, our dogmas. In that, last time I just told you what is magisterium, what is the teaching power, the teaching power of the Catholic Church, hierarchy, I just explained something. There are so many dogmas, at least in the Catholic Church, we have, these are the faith. We have already in our prayer, there is a beautiful expression, you are the true garden, true man. What it means? That is our faith. That God is, God has become man. No? God has become man. When He became man, what is His nature? So there was these things, the faith. This was after the persecution, this became the most crucial point of discussion in the church. And thus began splittings and problems. And the first, just after the persecution, during the Constantinian time itself, there was a big problem of one group of people insisting upon the oneness of God and uniqueness of God, and to protect that, of course, followed by the Greek philosophy,
The divinity.
Yeah, that means, there is only one God. And that is the Father. So then comes the question of what is Jesus Christ? Who is Jesus Christ? If there is only one God, then automatically comes what is the position of Jesus Christ? So these people, these rational people now, they began to teach that Jesus is not the divine incarnate. There are many explanations they gave. One is Jesus is a creature. God created him like us, but in a higher position. He gave him what's called the capacity to do miracles and foreknowledge and things like that. But he is not God. Heresy, no? So there was one another group of people, they began to interpret Jesus was just a man who was born from an ordinary woman, Mary. And during the time of baptism, he was taken as Son of God. God adopted him to the level of Son of God. And that heresy now we call adoptionism.
So they do not believe in the...
They don't believe that Jesus is the God incarnate. He was just a man. And he was adopted by God. This beautiful, occasion or an incident, event is narrated in the Gospels, no? When he was baptized by St. John the Baptist, then heavens opened, God proclaiming, "He is my Son, hear him." So that was an act by which God adopted him. Then he was called, now this theory was called adoptionism. There was some,
Before that he was just a regular...
Just a regular man. Born of just Mary, and without any difference, making any difference.
Yeah, but if he was born, Mary was also
Just an ordinary woman.
with Joseph, his father.
Yeah, Joseph was his father. That was already in the beginning of the church, at least from the 4th century onwards, these things began. Another one is monarchianism. So there are so many heresies like that. So the first one, the most important at that time, which denied the divinity of Christ, that was called Arianism. I have just mentioned what is Arianism, and it was because of that Constantine called the first ecumenical council called Council of Nicaea in 325.
That's when they fixed
The creed. Yes. That in which.
Well, they didn't fix it.
I'll say they fixed.
And I told you, that's why it is in this background, only in this background of Arianism. If you study the creed, you will understand why it is so. Otherwise, if you have some curiosity to have a critic mind, then we will ask questions. Why this is? When it comes, the part of Jesus Christ, it repeats many things. For example, I believe in Jesus Christ, only begotten Son of God. God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten not made. What it means?
Consubstantial with the Father.
It hammers it in.
Yes, only because of this background.
But Christ is God incarnate. Not all of God was in him.
Yes, all of God in him.
Then who did he pray to?
Yeah, that is the problem. That was the same problem. That was the same problem the people had.
That's the part that is incomprehensible.
Yeah, that was the rationality problem. No? How?
But they're inseparable.
Yes, but there are three.
Yeah, how this is. That can be, how it could be explained. The Trinity. So they could not really explain the Trinity, the mystery of Trinity. And they, these rationals, the rational people who were, more educated, who were more, influenced by the Greek philosophy. This is the philosophy of Aristotle, Plato and Aristotle, of course.
It did not fit the human
understanding. So that's why if he is fully God, then it brings the problem of there are two gods. God the Father, who is the fullness of Godhead, then Jesus Christ, How could be He fully God? Then there are two gods. Then there is the Holy Spirit. Then there are three gods. How can we?
That's the biggest problem that the Jews have with it.
Yeah. The problem of Trinity.
Yeah, one of the separated brothers came and knocked on my door, and he was explaining to me that how come if Jesus Christ was God, when He died for 3 days, he said, we didn't have God, God didn't exist for 3 days because He was there? And we're like, oh my God, how can you be so dumb? He says, what about the Trinity? You don't believe in the Father? But, they are used to people don't...
Yeah, think more, yeah.
The only way that I could explain it to people is you take the body, which is God. This is Jesus and this is the Holy Spirit. This is one inseparable thing. Now, if you see my hand, have you seen me? Yes. But you haven't seen all of me. You've seen part of me. You've seen a certain element of me. Now, if you were to cut my hands off, I would still be me, but my hands would be nothing. Separated from God.
But still,
The Spirit and Jesus are nothing.
that still is to be a very dangerous thing.
Yes, exactly.
Because, at least I can cut and, remove. So, but a philosophical explanation, let me give. A philosophical explanation. You see, for example, take the case of, this is an explanation of, category given by St. Thomas Aquinas. It will be a small thing, but applied to this. For example, see this table. It has at least two inseparable entities. No? What is?
The top and the legs.
Front
No.
and the back.
The legs.
Oh,
You can just remove the legs. It still be a table, could be. One is, that means this is something, matter. Another is form.
yes.
Can you separate the matter from form?
No.
No.
Matter in whatever form it is.
In whatever form, matter can exist only in a form. No? Without form, even if, if this is, okay, if this is formed in this table's form, it is table. When this same matter, if you form it in a chair form, it's chair. So, but that's why it is, in mind at least there is an independency. But it is, in fact, the matter and form, they can exist always together. A matter cannot exist without a form, and a form has no existence without a matter.
So they're
This is why it's inseparable.
It's inseparable. But at the same time, even though it is inseparable, this same material, could be made different, I can make, this is a table, yes, but I can make it a chair. So there is something more. Even though it is inseparable, there is something what's called, independent.
So that form, divorced of its matter,
Yes.
is not.
Another thing is,
But the matter still is.
yes,
the word amor, which means without form, should not exist because everything that exists has a form, even if it's
yeah,
a weird shape,
Still a
it
form.
still has a form.
even though we cannot define a form, but it exists in a form. The air, even though it has no form, we say, but it exists in a form. The air exists in this room in the form of in a square, no?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is, separate the form from that gives it
Yeah.
life is.
Another thing, for example, I can say, for example, my voice. Has it a separate existence from me? Yes or no? No? Yes, when it is in me, but at the same time, now we have technology by which I can, once it is spoken, It is there. That's why Jesus is called Logos. When in Father, for example, take the simple example, just an example to understand, at least, in Father, Jesus was there. And just like my voice, it is in me. Apart from me, there is no existence, no my voice. But once spoken, it exists. No? That's why I could register it.
Wasn't Jesus the one who says, the Father and I are one?
Yes.
They don't say, the Father and I are two.
Yeah, but it's only, this is our reasonabilities, no? We are talking about a reason, no?
Yeah.
These are not very easy, these are the problems. These are the biggest problems in the church all throughout centuries. Every time, another problem was, this was about Godhead and Jesus, about the divinity of Jesus. And the first council of Nicaea established that Jesus is consubstantial with the Father in every aspect.
But another thing about existence is like, when you look at the window, you saw a tree. And then you go and sleep.
Nobody got it, the idea. Rabbi, you can explain once more.
If you look at the window, you saw a tree.
Okay.
And then, you retire now and then go to sleep. Close the window. But you know that the tree is there. It exists. But you don't see it anymore. But you saw it and know that there's a tree there.
That is the idea already Plato said. Philosopher Plato.
Oh.
Philosopher Plato said, what all things you see are not real things.
Okay. Just by imagination.
These are only images. The reality is above. The reality, there is a world of ideas. That is a Platonism. There is a world of what's called ideas. And whatever we see in this world, the matter is simply what's called an image or like a shadow. Shadows are not real. No, they are not real. But it is real almost, no? Like that. Plato said like this is to say, okay, you see the tree, they exist in mind. So these are philosophy. I don't know. We learn philosophy for 3 years. Therefore I am so fascinated to speak it. But it's without foundation. It's very, very difficult to understand these things. Because we should have a foundation, real foundation. What it means. We teach in the seminary theology only after 3 years of philosophy. So there now already the basic concepts of categories, substance, matter, and then many things philosophy. And I would suggest mathematics is simple philosophy. Yes, mathematics is simple philosophy because it is logic, no? 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Who said that? The reason says that. It's philosophy or logic, it is. All because if it is that, the outcome should come this way because it is logic. So that's why mathematics is simple philosophy. And that is the basis of, I think, the science. So we can, that's why, even the physical sciences we could, almost reduce to philosophy. It's a really interesting thing.
And somebody had to say that, right? I mean, it originated somewhere, right? Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. It could have been 2 plus 2 equals 5, and they would have thought of that as...
That was the right thing.
That's smart. There was a movie came out recently called Lincoln, and it was all about him trying to pass the 13th Amendment, which eliminated slavery and everything. And he was pushed to end the war. The Southern delegation secretly came to meet with him, and they were being held some miles away. But if he ended the war before he passed this, he could never end slavery. So he was really torn. He was about ready to give in. And he went down to the telegraph office to send a message asking the delegation to come up. And he started talking to the two young men that were there, and one was an engineer. And Lincoln said, well, I never studied engineering, but I did study geometry. And one of the things I remember is one of the principles that any two things that are equal to a third must be equal to each other. And he just sits there and says, and there it is. In the simplicity of God's design, he put forth his law. And he said, change the telegraph, tell him not to come, I'm not going to meet with him. But he said, but there's the answer. Any two things that are equal to a third must be equal to each other.
No, equal, no? See, clear, simple logic it is.
But he saw God's law.
Yes.
And God's nature written into the simple logic of the universe.
That is the problem. That is the problem with the the people who do not believe in God. These are if you really understand the meaning of philosophy, philosophy or this, it is simple to believe in God, the reality. For example, I don't see God, when it is said, when Yuri Gagarin, the first one who landed in moon, in the space, he said, I never saw God there. No?
Where is it?
Where is he?
Saw him.
But when Neil Armstrong landed there, he said, I see the beauty of God there. So that is the difference. Both of them are astronauts, great scientists, but let's see how just to view things. And what we can understand, the Yuri Gagarin, the Russian astronaut, he really failed to see, that's all. No? Is that, that's and some scientists believe that is something pride. I did not see God anywhere because they really want to make God, fitting to their categories, my thinking categories. And God is, so limited to fit their categories?
Yeah, same thing as now. People
way above.
make their own God according to
Their own categories.
Yeah.
Thinking patterns, no? Yes. Okay, that is not a real our discussions, but it just went. Okay. Spirituality, moral, liturgy, and all those things, all these things are so many. It's a faith, spirituality, moral theology. There is a big branch of theology called moral theology, and that making all things studies. Liturgy, as I told you, there are 6 mother liturgies. That means who really independently gave birth to liturgy. I have already told you, the Roman liturgy or Latin liturgy, then there is a Greek liturgy, then there is the Antiochian liturgy, then there is the Alexandrian liturgy, then the Chaldean liturgy, and then one more, Armenian liturgy. So these are the 6 liturgies. These gave birth to different liturgy, not liturgies, these, as I told you, all these together in the, okay, this is here. Now, I told you, 23, no? 23 churches or rites. 23.
Out of those 6, there are subdivisions.
Yeah. So, I told you already, the first Roman liturgy, they are followed by one church, and that form almost like more than 80% of Catholics, the whole world. So the Roman liturgy is followed by
America, the continent is basically follows the Roman.
Yeah, the American, that is the majority. But in America, that is there is interesting thing. In America, I think almost all the liturgical families are here because, groups of people migrated from there, and therefore there are bishops and dioceses. One best example is my diocese here in America. Yeah, that's, so we have a liturgical, as told you, of these 23, one church. That is the complication. So, one church. So, not from the Latin, but from I told you in the Chaldean liturgy, Here, I mentioned about Chaldean liturgy from Babylon, using Syriac as the liturgical language at that time. That's why they were called Syrian liturgy. And there are two branches. In Antiochian liturgy, they were also using Syriac as their, but they were using West Syriac. And the Babylonians or the Chaldeans, they were outside the Roman Empire. They were using another Syriac that is called East Syriac. These are complications. And our church, liturgically speaking, they belong to the East Syriac liturgy. East Syriac. East Syriac.
That's the church that you belong to, correct? Yeah.
Are there many differences, or there are a lot of similarities?
That's why when it comes, faith, spirituality and morality, we are all the same. In liturgy, we are not same. Discipline, not same. Hierarchy, not same.
The things of God, they're all the same.
And the life,
The way we express it
differently.
the way we... Okay. Because we're all different.
Because I told you, liturgy is, could be influenced by many factors, like language, culture, the way of expression. For example, I just told you, see, how do you, I told an example of that very, striking example for me at that time. It was, when I saw something in Africa. I told you, in the church, during consecration. That is the highest peak moment of, our spiritual experience, no? What we do? Pause in silence, no? Pause in silence. And you see, in our Holy Spirit Church, there is a very beautiful thing, what I really liked, during the time of consecration, you turn off all the lights, only the priest, that light of the altar is lit. The whole concentration is now on that altar, and people really, kind of a complete silence. Even somewhere or other, our kids do not cry at that time, mostly, because they also feel something is important is happening there. There is no music, there is no sound, nothing. Only just what we hear is the pronunciation of the consecration by the priest. No? So that means the highest, the peak experience, expression is that. For us it is silence.
It's all spiritual.
That is an expression of our liturgy. But you go to Africa. I attended Mass, African Mass in Kenya and Tanzania. During the time of consecration, what they do is they scream. Can you imagine that during consecration you hear somebody screaming? They're just, the women will, just like they scream.
That's how they express it.
So that is their way of expressing the peak of their experience.
So David dance.
Yeah, of course. See, that is the difference I just told you, because the liturgy is formed by that. There are so many, the language differences, then the cultural differences, all these things are there. All these things are there. Another thing, for example, in India, it's interesting to see. Nobody enters in a church with a shoe. No.
Even a Catholic church?
Yes. Because the Indian people, think, temple, the Hindus. That is a Hindu tradition. There is God is there, is Holy of Holies. And my shoe, I have to take off my shoe, and barefoot I have to enter into. So that tradition is taken by the Catholic Church or the Christians. When they enter into the church, they take off all their shoes. And because, they feel it that it's a sacred place. When we enter into, we cannot simply go and enter into the sacred place. So, just take off and then go.
One part of the Bible calls it remove your shoe.
Yeah, that is in the Exodus.
That was the burning bush.
That is the Exodus. Exodus, I think, chapter 4. When Moses, saw the first time the burning bush, when he came in, then God said, stop there, because it is a sacred place. Take off your shoes. So, and some people, in our churches, that part is written. Take off your shoes. It's you are entering a sacred place. Sometimes, some people write it there. And, in our place, that is very interesting.
Actually, a lot of people from
East.
on the other side, even to go into their houses, they leave the
some of the so Indian custom is like that. Inside the church, of course, we take off all our shoes outside, keep it there some place, and then enter. There's a kind of respect in that. That is a tradition. When you take off shoes, that doesn't mean here, no. That is the difference of culture. When during our people, some are very poor, in our place, and when people come, and they come with a good shoe, and in our place it's a very hot, and then it's not a kind of a shoe like this, it's not very common there, but they're very simple,
like
sandals and what we call something like that, shoes like this very, very rare. So it's very easy. Come there, just put it there and go. There is no need of socks and things like that. And poor people, when they come with good shoes and they leave it there, when they come back they don't see it. That's a problem. I come with a very old shoe and then put there and then go with the new. It's very easy,
They think God gave it to them.
And somebody came and just complained to the pastor. Oh, Father, I lost my shoe. Then the pastor said, oh, who is going to take your shoe? Maybe a dog, dogs are running around, but I have taken a dog. Then the man replied, I never saw a dog, taking a pair of shoes.
Sure, yes.
Okay. So this is liturgy. Discipline, of course. When you look into discipline, what is the church, the practice? Explain it, The whole Catholic Church, I told you, 23 rites, it is divided into two, as I told you. One is Western and Eastern, no? So for the Eastern Church, for the Western Church, that means the Latin Rite, they have a code of canon law. Code of canon law. For the West. So for the West, code of canon law. So that is promulgated in 1917. So the code of canon law binding to the Western Church is promulgated in the year 1917. That is binding to the whole world of the West. And the Easterners, of course, the problem is there are 22 Eastern churches now. There are so many differences. So they could not very easily make a law. But they, at last, the church promulgated another code of canon law for the Easterners, that is 1990. 1990. So there is a code of canon law for all the 22 Eastern churches binding. These are the two, what we call the universal laws for the Easterners and the West. Understand? Now comes, this is for all. Now comes for the West. Now comes each country might have differences of their practices. No, for that what we do, what we call it. So for example, in America there is a bishops conference, no, the Catholic American Bishops Conference or American Catholic Bishops Conference. So it is functioning not independently, of course not, but it has some kind of independency to act, to enact some laws. So basing on these laws, or what the principle, the Joe can very clearly say, when I make a law, it should not exceed or contradict to the law superior to that. Is it so, Joe? No?
That's right.
Yeah. When I make a law, for example, if the Holy Spirit parish, enact a law, it should not contradict to the law of the diocese.
It should only be a clarification of the...
Not only clarification, we can make, even we can make something new, no problem. But it should not contradict all other laws beyond that. For example, when we make the Holy Spirit, the Catholic parish makes something new for our church, only that will bind only our church, our church community. That should not go beyond or contradict the law of the diocese. When the diocese makes something special law, it should not contradict the laws of the Bishops' Conference of America and the Universal Church. When the Conference of American Bishops' Conference, when they make a law, it should not contradict this law. So when practically we have, we can say this is the law, then there is the American Bishops' Conference could be a law or a guideline. Explanation of this and something special. And then there will be diocesan guidelines. Okay? Why it is said? In America, even in America, there are so many dioceses. All these dioceses, they can have differences. Brownsville diocese will have something different, than the Corpus Christi. Could be. Some very little thing could be a different. That's why these are called kind of guidelines. So diocesan, then Episcopal conferences, then the universal law. This is about the Western Church. This is the same way. For example, in Europe, the same law, 1917 law, is the same for them, and basing on that, they can create the German Bishops' Conference. They can make guidelines for their church, and each diocese can make a guideline for themselves. Or we do, for example, an understanding. So the Holy Spirit Church, the parish community make a law. Okay, we are going to implement, the first communion in May. That need not be the same with Our Lady of Sorrows. Our Lady of Sorrows, they make what's called the first Holy Communion whenever they want. There is no universal law for that.
And it's not contradicting.
That's all. It doesn't contradict. Okay, I make it, for our convenience. We make it in May. Our Lady of Sorrows, they make maybe after two weeks later. It's okay. It's up to them to decide. That's all. Okay, that is about discipline. Then here for the Easterners, things are a little more complicated. Because there are 22 churches. There is a law promulgated in 1990, and based on that, each right has a right. Each right has a right to make their own laws. So this is called the individual church. So this church, this right, so they make their law, a particular law, that is called particular law. This is the universal law for the Easterners, and based on this, they make a particular law. For example, my church, they make a particular law, and we have a code of particular laws. And based on that, this is called particular law, okay? Particular law. Then based on that, this is almost equal to Bishop's Conference, no? Mm-hmm. Bishop's Conference in Latin Diocese. And here, based on that, we have a diocesan guidelines. So at least every Catholic person has 3 laws, 3 set of laws. One is the diocesan, second the Bishop's Conference, and third the universal law. This is the disciplinary part. And interesting, for example, what is the difference then? Just to make an interesting thing, Okay, take the case of marriage. Here, marriage of the priest. The Western law in 1917 is totally prohibits the priest getting married. No? But the Eastern law, they do not prohibit. The common law do not prohibit priests getting married. And that is left freely for the individual churches to make law. Therefore, in my church, it is prohibited that priests get married. But in Byzantine church, they are allowed to get married. There are so many churches, of the 22 churches, I think maybe almost like 2-3, except 2-3 churches, all other Eastern churches, the priests are allowed to marry. Understand that? Understand now the difference?
So, okay. Catholic priests
can get married.
We are just used to see in the Western liturgy or side of the church, but in the universal Catholicism, some of it.
Yeah, either in the Eastern rites, but in India, in my church, the Malabar church, we opted for not marrying. And in our church, no priest can get married. No. That's a particular law. I told you, this is a particular law of our church. But in 1990, the universal law of the Easterners, it doesn't prohibit priests getting married. I'm just talking very clear example. But in 1917, the Western law, it prohibits.
So the Eastern rites have different vows for the priests then?
No. That means, vows means not chastity, vows of chastity. But, if in the particular law, they can have it the same way. In my church, that is the same thing like, the Latin church. Because we have the 3 vows, chastity, obedience, and poverty. But for the Byzantine Catholic Church, they don't have the chastity as a law. No.
So what is this man's law, Father?
What is that?
This man's law.
It's a man's law.
A man's law.
Sure. It's a tradition.
Because God said a priest should be married.
Yeah, not only that, no. Only thing is that in the beginning, of course, all priests were married.
Right.
All priests were married. Bishops were married. Only after, it's a practical thing. If somebody don't get married, they are fully dedicated to that, that church. That is true.
That's the Anglican church, no?
Anglican church, they can get married. Sure.
Catholic.
Anglican Catholic Church, because they were Protestants, no? And they had the tradition of the married clergy in the Anglican Church. Nowadays, I think under Pope Benedict, a group of people reunited with the Catholic Church. So the church allows them to continue with their tradition of priests, and the married priests. That's the thing. Then the problem here comes. Now, that Anglicans who were accepted in the church, if they were accepted in the Western Latin rite, then they won't get married. So, what a provision now is, the Anglicans who, as a group of people, when they came to join the church, they were accepted as a separate rite. If it is a separate rite, then all these things can be independent,
But still, the papacy is over all of it.
Sure.
Okay.
That the Pope is the head of all.
Of the church.
Yeah. I told you, this, and again another thing is hierarchy. Let me explain this one, then we will finish. We'll be more clear. Hierarchy. Each 23 church has a head. And Pope is the head of the Western Church. He is the patriarch of the Latin Church. He is the patriarch of the Latin Church. And there are patriarchs of the, not all of 24 churches having patriarch, no. Because, there are, small churches. Our church, we don't have a patriarch. We have a major archbishop with all the rights of a patriarch, but not title. Or the Ukrainian church, they have a patriarch, the Ukrainian patriarch, Catholic church. The Babylonian, that means the Chaldeans, they have a patriarch, the Babylonian patriarch, Catholic patriarch.
Now,
Confusion?
the Greek Orthodox and the Eastern Orthodox, they're not under this, right? They're separate.
Yeah, that is, this is separate means. So, this is, let me explain, and maybe we can see that, Okay, you understand the hierarchy, but each church has their own head. So, in my church, for example, that is called Syro Malabar Church, there is a head who is the supreme authority of this church. And all these 23 churches together make the Catholic Church. And to that Catholic Church, Pope is the head. And in the Catholic Church, the Pope has not only the what's called the power of what's called the faith and tradition, but he has a jurisdictional power. So therefore, if the Pope decides to remove a head of another church, 23 of one of the right, he can do it because he is powerful for that, because he is the head of the church. But these 22, all the rights, the heads, if they decide to remove the Pope, that cannot be done. Because Pope is the supreme authority in the church. But at the same time, even though he is the supreme authority in the church, he doesn't interfere so much in the affairs of the other churches as he interferes in the Latin Church, because he is separately head of the Latin Church.
Now, all the cardinals and everything that we see, do all these churches do they have cardinals in Rome, or is that just the
Not all the churches, but it is a little bit different. And
I guess the question is, When it comes time to elect a new pope,
That's exactly what I was saying.
who goes there?
Yeah, there is cardinals. And who are the cardinals? It has a separate history. So little bit of just to have a interesting. Let me give a little idea of cardinals. The Pope was the head of the Roman Church. You know that, and he was elected by the clergy and the people. Understand? Of the Rome. He was elected. So the tradition from almost like 5th century onwards, happened to be like this. The Pope was elected by the bishops, the surrounding bishops of the Roman diocese. For example, the surrounding dioceses are Ostia, Palestrina, Tusculum, Albano, then Frascati, then Santa Rufina. I just remember these things because I was there. So these were there were seven the neighboring dioceses. Those bishops, one group of people. Secondly, there were prominent parish communities in the diocese of Rome. Okay? In the diocese of Rome, there were parishes. Okay? Of the parishes, the most prominent ones that made it 25 prominent parishes. And so 7 plus 25 plus one more. The whole Roman diocese was divided into 7 districts. And each district's charitable works was assigned to a deacon. Okay? The diocese was divided into 7 districts, and each district was assigned to a deacon. And so 7 bishops of the neighboring dioceses, 25 priests from the prominent parishes of the Roman dioceses, and 7 deacons of the districts of Diocese of Rome. These people were the constituent people to elect the Pope or the Bishop of Rome. Understand?
Yeah.
The Bishop of Rome. So 7 plus 7 plus 25. These were the people who came to elect. So the deacons, representing the people, the 25 priests representing the clergy, and 7 bishops, the hierarchy, the most important one. So these 3 groups of people were the people who came to elect.
That was in the 5th century.
Starting from 5th century onwards. Before that, it was just priests and people, all together elected the head of the church of the Rome. That's all. And these are 3 groups of people still continues to be the cardinals. In the cardinal college, now the practice is the Pope alone is the responsible one to nominate a cardinal. He nominates, that is his privilege. Nobody can interfere in that.
Since when is that, brother? Since when is that?
What year, 1500s or when?
No, that's it's a long history. I think, I have to give a little more if it is explainable, no? We have to give, I see so many, a little bit, I shall try to explain next time about cardinals. At least when you go today, in order to have curiosity, at least these things I just say. So these 3 groups of people, even now in College of Cardinals, presently we have 200 cardinals in the College of Cardinals, but all of them are not eligible for voting. There is a age limit, 80 years. When a cardinal becomes 80 years old, he loses the power to vote or elect Pope. So now living in the Catholic Church, 200 cardinals.
That can vote.
No,
Oh,
altogether.
altogether.
And the voting power cardinals are only 109. 109. The only 109 because they don't like cardinals.
Only 109 cardinals.
Yeah, only 109 cardinals are eligible to. Suppose Pope Francis dies today, the next conclave can participate only 109 cardinals, even though there are 200 cardinals still alive, because the age limit 80. When somebody is 80, he is no more eligible for an election. For example, in United States, I think there are about 20-21 cardinals are living, but only half of them having the voting power.
It's they are on their
Because they are beyond 80 years old. So in the Cardinal College, so there are what's called the bishop cardinals. They are the most important ones. Then there are the priest cardinals, and there are deacon cardinals. Among the cardinals, there are 3 groups. It doesn't make any difference in their power or anything, but in rank. Suppose 2 cardinals come for a meeting. One is a bishop cardinal, another is a priest cardinal. Who speaks first? The bishop cardinal speaks first, because that is the protocol. And for voting, there is no difference. Of these, anybody could be elected as pope, no problem. There's nothing difference is there. But only thing is, why there are 3? There are 3 categories, as I explained. They are representing the bishop cardinals, then the priests of the Roman diocese, and the 7 deacons.
They represent also the people.
And now what they do, that was the origin of cardinals in the Roman church, the Roman dioceses. But now, in course of time, it turned out to be the cardinals were the prominent people just after the Pope. So, in course of time, it was universalized. Not simply the Roman thing, because it is Catholic Church. Therefore, what they do is Pope nominates the what's called maybe because of the importance of the see, importance of the diocese or something like that, and maybe because of, for example, almost like the Bishop of Boston, Bishop of Illinois, Bishop of Chicago, and Bishop of Washington or New York. I think they are almost every time they are cardinals, no? Because of the importance of the dioceses. Boston now is a cardinal. I think Chicago is a cardinal. New York is a cardinal. No, Los Angeles is cardinal.
Houston just got to be one, of course, Cardinal De Niro. That's new.
Maybe that I'm just.
But the big cities with a lot of Catholics in them.
Yeah. So this is the way. But with that, that hierarchy, in my church, the head of the church is a cardinal. He was nominated as a cardinal because he is a head of an important church.
Okay, so that answers my question.
Yeah.
So,
But not all the 23, no.
okay. So only some of the...
Some of them are, some of them are cardinals. Some of them are cardinals. Not all.
So it's not just a Western church?
No.
that elects the Pope.
No.
Universal.
The Universal Church.
So no class next Saturday.
Next Saturday there is class. You come and discuss. I don't come. That's all.
Actually, we have a video.
Okay.
Since this is the beginning of the Christmas season, I have a video on the Star of Bethlehem. And